Hi, I am Emmy Wassénius and I am a postdoctoral researcher in the FinBio project. Today I will talk about the EEIVs, or the Essential Environmental Impact Variables, what they are, how they work, and how they're useful for understanding environmental impacts and nature-related risks. Together with my colleagues, I developed the EEIVs because I saw that there was an immense pressure on companies to report on sustainability information, but where, despite this, there was still very limited information on key data points that are needed to adequately understand a company's environmental impact and their exposure to nature-related risks. So we developed the EEIVs to get the best of both worlds. Few reporting variables, but with all the essential information. The first EEIV is the most obvious: emissions. Reporting of emissions in CO2 equivalents is one of the EEIVs where current reporting is good, and for good reason. Anthropogenic climate change is already upon us and creating both slow changes in conditions, such as increasing average temperatures, but also affecting the frequency, intensity, and the timing of extreme weather events. So tracking emissions is a way to get data on a company's contribution to climate change and to creating physical climate risks. Keep reporting on emissions and keep lowering them. CO2 emissions, however, are unique in that no matter where on Earth they're released, they have the same effect. All other environmental impacts are different. What the impact looks like and its severity is shaped by where it happens. Therefore, a big difference with the EEIVs compared to current reporting is that they ask about where activities happen. That is, the location of company operations. Location-specific information is not only needed to understand impacts, but also risks. For example, the risk of flooding is very different in different parts of the world and even in different parts of a country. So knowing the exact location of operations is how you accurately assess these risks. EEIVs 2 to 5 are therefore about location. Where are your operational sites? How big are they? What are they used for? And which year did you acquire them? At each of these operational sites, you will have activities. And these activities usually require some inputs, produce some output product or resource, and are performed through some sort of management or technical practice. These are the different categories of the next EEIVs. EEIVs 6 to 8 are about inputs. What type of inputs are needed and in what amounts? What are they used for? And where are they sourced from? Data on inputs might be harder to get at, especially if you're a company with a lot of different inputs from long and diverse supply chains. But start small and work up. Data on inputs tells us about the externalized pressures on the environment that these activities create. It also tells us what new or novel materials are added to this location that weren't there to start with. From this, we can then start to understand the impacts that it may have created on the local environment and what local risks it creates. EEIVs 9 to 11 are about outputs. What and how much are you producing or extracting? And how much end product does that result in? For sectors that either extract natural resources or grow them, these data points tell us something about the extent of pressure on these natural resources. For sectors that create secondary products, these EEIVs inform us about how resource efficient the production method is. That is, how much end product you get from the resources that you put in and the impacts that they have. This is how you can start to assess your environmental impact efficiency. EEIV 12 is a descriptive data point about the practices that you use to extract or produce your product. This data point is essential as different practices that result in the same end product can have vastly different impacts. Different mining, farming, or fishing practices vary greatly in their impact. But similarly, different secondary production processes can be very different in their input requirements. Finally, EEIVs 13 to 15 are specifically about assessing the past occurrences of disturbance event, cases of invasive species, and pest and disease outbreaks. Understanding of these types of events happened in the past year, and the extent of their impact informs us about the potential environmental impact from these events, but also, importantly, about the risks of these types of events in the future. And that's all of them. That's all the essential data points that are needed to adequately understand a company's environmental impact and inform about their exposure to nature-related risks. It's about understanding where operations are located, what and how much resources are needed and produced. Thank you.